The silent arrival. The Galactic Council chamber on Station Omega hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 star-faring civilizations gathered for an emergency session. Something was terribly wrong in the outer territories, and nobody could explain what was happening. Ships were vanishing without trace. Entire patrol fleets would enter regions of space and simply cease to exist. No debris fields, no distress signals, no final transmissions. They were there one moment and gone the next, as if swallowed by the darkness itself. High Chancellor Korvac stood at the central platform, his crystalline form reflecting the worried faces of hundreds of delegates. The Zephyrians, like him, were among the oldest species in the galaxy, their bodies made of living crystal that could process information at speeds organic minds could barely comprehend. Today, even his vast intellect struggled to make sense of the reports flooding in from across known space. The pattern was clear but impossible. Something was hunting ships in the void between stars. Something that left no evidence of its existence except empty space where vessels should have been. The Vorthan delegate, a massive creature resembling a cross between a bear and an octopus, slammed one of its forearms on the table. 3 more patrol groups had vanished in the Nexus sector just this morning. Whatever was doing this was getting bolder, moving closer to inhabited systems. The translator converted its chemical speech into words everyone could understand, though the fear needed no translation. We must consider the possibility that we face a predator species we have never encountered before. Something that exists in the dark spaces between stars and feeds on our technology, or perhaps our life force itself. Ambassador Thrix of the Melleran Empire floated gently above her seat, her jellyfish-like form pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep concern. Her species had evolved in the methane seas of a gas giant and could see across 12 different spectrums of light. Even with our enhanced sensors, we detect nothing. Our most advanced scanning arrays show only empty space before, during, and after these disappearances. It is as if our ships are being erased from reality itself. The mathematical probability of this being natural phenomenon approaches 0. We are being hunted by something that exists outside our understanding of physics. The chamber erupted in heated debate. Some delegates called for immediate military mobilization, though nobody knew what they would be fighting. Others suggested evacuating the outer colonies and consolidating their defenses around the core worlds. A few voiced the unthinkable possibility that they faced something from outside their galaxy entirely. Perhaps scouts from an invasion force that operated on principles their science could not yet grasp. The fear was palpable, a thick tension that seemed to press down on everyone present. That was when the alarms began. Not the gentle chimes that announced arriving vessels, but the sharp, urgent wailing that meant something massive had just appeared in local space without warning. Chancellor Korvac's crystalline form flickered as he processed the incoming data, his color shifting from calm blue to alarmed orange. Multiple contacts detected at the system's edge. No approach vector recorded. They simply appeared. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. The main display activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of the space around Station Omega. Where moments before there had been nothing, 12 red dots now blinked ominously. The sensor readings made no sense. The objects were there, massive and undeniable, but they seemed to exist in a state of flux, partially phased out of normal space. Their energy signatures were contradictory, showing power generation that should have been visible from light years away, yet somehow contained and hidden until this moment. As the council watched in stunned silence, the 12 objects began moving toward the station in perfect formation, their approach slow and deliberate, almost ceremonial in its precision. A young Ketheri officer, her feathers ruffling with anxiety, spoke from her monitoring station. "Chancellor, the objects are sending out scanning beams but using methods we don't recognize. They're reading our systems, our databases, our everything. I cannot stop them. Our firewalls mean nothing to their technology." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the chamber went dark. Then slowly, words appeared in perfect galactic standard, the common language used for interspecies communication. Words that would change everything. "Greetings from Earth, we have been watching. We have been learning. We have been preparing. Do not be afraid. We are here to help." The silence that followed was deafening. Earth, the primitive world in the Orion Arm, the planet that had only achieved faster-than-light travel 70 years ago, the same Earth whose inhabitants still fought among themselves and had barely managed to colonize their own solar system. Every delegate knew about humans. They were the galaxy's newest species, discovered by accident when a Zephyrian survey ship detected their radio emissions. First contact had been careful and limited. Humans were deemed too primitive to pose any threat and too insignificant to matter in galactic affairs. Their technology was millennia behind everyone else. They still used combustion engines and chemical rockets. Their computers were barely more than calculating machines compared to the quantum processors other species had perfected ages ago. Ambassador Thrix was the first to find her voice, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in confusion. This must be deception. Humans do not possess such technology. We have extensive reports on their capabilities. Their most advanced vessels are smaller than our shuttles. They cannot simply appear in space without detection. This violates every law of physics we understand. Yet even as she spoke, the 12 objects continued their approach, defying everything the galaxy thought it knew about human capabilities. The communication system activated again, this time carrying a human voice, calm and assured. This is Admiral Marcus Rivera of the Earth Defense Command, commanding the Terran Ghost Fleet. We apologize for our dramatic entrance, but we believed a demonstration was necessary. We have been monitoring the disappearances in the outer territories. We know what is taking your ships and we can stop it. Request permission to send a representative to explain. The Council exchanged uncertain glances. Everything about this situation was impossible, yet the evidence floated before them in space. Chancellor Korvax made the decision that would reshape galactic history. Permission granted, Admiral Rivera. Send your representative, but understand we will require extensive explanation for all of this. The response came immediately. Understood, Chancellor. Our representative is already among you. The delegates looked around in confusion. The chamber was sealed, with multiple security checkpoints. Nobody could enter without detection. Then in the center of the room, the air itself seemed to ripple and fold. A figure materialized from nothing, as if stepping through an invisible doorway. A human woman in a simple black uniform stood before them, young by human standards but with eyes that held knowledge far beyond her years. She smiled slightly at their shocked expressions. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates. I am Commander Eva Blackwood, Special Envoy of Earth. I apologize for the unconventional entrance, but we felt it important to demonstrate that humanity has progressed somewhat beyond your last assessment of our capabilities. We have much to discuss and, unfortunately, very little time. The beings you call the Void Hunters are not what you think they are. They are scouts for something far worse, and they have been testing your defenses for an invasion. We know this because we have been fighting them in the spaces between stars for the past decade. The chamber erupted in questions and demands, but Commander Blackwood raised her hand for silence. Her presence, despite her small stature compared to many of the alien delegates, commanded attention. 70 years ago, when you discovered Earth, you saw a primitive species barely capable of leaving its planet. What you didn't know was that your arrival triggered something in humanity. We realized we were not alone, and more importantly, we realized how vulnerable we were. So we did what humans do best. We adapted, we learned, and we prepared in secret. She gestured to the holographic display showing the 12 objects now holding position around Station Omega. What you see here is merely our diplomatic fleet. The real Ghost Fleet, our true defensive force, numbers in the thousands. For the past 50 years, while you thought we were struggling with basic space travel, we were actually reverse engineering every piece of technology we could scan from passing alien vessels. We combined it with our own unique approaches to physics and warfare. The result is something entirely new. Ships that exist partially in phase space, invisible to conventional sensors. Weapons that strike from dimensions you haven't discovered yet. Shields that bend reality itself. Ambassador Thrix's patterns flashed rapidly, indicating disbelief. Impossible. Such advancement cannot be achieved in mere decades. It takes millennia to develop such technologies. We would have detected your experiments, your testing, your failures. Commander Blackwood's smile widened slightly. With respect, Ambassador, you're thinking like species that had time to develop slowly, safely. Humanity didn't have that luxury. We knew that compared to the rest of the galaxy, we were insects, so we took risks no sane species would take. We tested technologies that had a 50% chance of destroying our entire solar system. We pushed the boundaries of what was possible because we had no choice. And we did it all in the spaces between spaces, in dimensions where your sensors couldn't reach. The Vorthon delegate leaned forward, all 4 of its eyes focused on the human. You claim to know what is taking our ships. If this is true, why did you not warn us sooner? Commander Blackwood's expression grew serious. Because we weren't sure until recently. The entities you call void hunters are actually probe organisms sent by a species from another galaxy entirely. They call themselves the Devourers. They consume energy in all its forms, including the life force of sentient beings. Your ships aren't being destroyed. They're being harvested. The crews are being drained of their bioenergy, and the vessels are being broken down to their component atoms for resources. We've been fighting their scouts in the quantum foam layer of spacetime, preventing them from getting accurate readings on your defensive capabilities. She paused, letting the horrifying implications sink in. 3 days ago, we intercepted a transmission from their main fleet. They're coming. Not scouts or probes, but their entire armada. They'll arrive at the galaxy's edge within 6 months. Based on our intelligence, they have consumed 12 galaxies before ours. They're methodical, patient, and utterly ruthless. The good news is that humanity's unconventional development path has given us weapons they haven't encountered before. The bad news is that we can't stop them alone. We need the entire galaxy united if we're going to survive what's coming. The Phantom Protocol Chancellor, Korvax's crystalline form shifted through a spectrum of colors as he processed Commander Blackwood's revelation. The council chamber had fallen into stunned silence, each delegate grappling with the implications of what they had just learned. Not only had humanity secretly developed technology that defied their understanding, but they were also facing an extragalactic threat that consumed entire civilizations. The combination of shocking revelations left even the most experienced diplomats struggling to formulate responses. Finally, the Melloran ambassador Thrix spoke, her translucent form pulsing with agitation. You claim humanity has been fighting these devourers in secret for a decade. Why should we believe this extraordinary tale? Where is your proof? Commander Blackwood nodded as if expecting this question. She touched a device on her wrist, and the chamber's holographic display shifted to show a view unlike anything the delegates had seen before. It wasn't normal space, but something else entirely. Layers of reality seemed to overlap and flow like liquid, with strange geometries that hurt to perceive directly. This is what we call the quantum foam layer, she explained. It exists between dimensions, a space where the laws of physics are more suggestions than rules. The Devourers use it to move undetected, and it's where we've been engaging them. The display showed shapes moving through the strange space, dark entities that seemed to absorb light and reality around them. Then points of brilliant light appeared, human vessels that flickered in and out of existence, striking at the dark shapes with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Watch carefully, Commander Blackwood continued. This is a recording from 3 weeks ago. The Council watched as a massive devourer construct, easily the size of a moon, emerged from the quantum foam into normal space near an uninhabited system. Before it could fully materialize, 12 human vessels appeared around it, firing weapons that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The construct writhed and twisted, trying to retreat, but the human ships had somehow locked it in place. Within minutes, the massive entity collapsed in on itself and vanished, leaving only a ripple in space-time. The Vorthon delegates' 4 arms gestured in disbelief. Such power! How did humanity develop this in secret? Commander Blackwood's expression grew thoughtful. Desperation is a powerful motivator. When we learned we were the youngest, weakest species in the galaxy, we knew we had 2 choices: remain helpless or become something unprecedented. We chose the latter. We also had an advantage none of you possessed. We didn't know what was impossible. Your species developed along logical, safe paths over millennia. You had established rules about what could and couldn't be done. We didn't have those preconceptions, so we tried everything, no matter how insane it seemed. She gestured to the display again, showing Earth surrounded by a network of hidden stations and ships. We built our entire ghost fleet in pocket dimensions, spaces we carved out of the quantum foam itself. To your sensors, these locations don't exist. We tested weapons that manipulated fundamental forces, developed shields that phase-shifted attacks into alternate realities, and created drives that moved through space by convincing the universe we're already at our destination. It was dangerous, reckless even. We lost entire research stations to experiments gone wrong. But we learned from every failure. Admiral Rivera's voice came through the communication system from his ship. Chancellor Korvax, with your permission, we would like to demonstrate our capabilities more directly, not as a threat, but to show you what we can offer in the coming conflict. The Chancellor's form flickered as he consulted with the other delegates through private channels. After a moment, he responded, "Proceed, Admiral, but understand that any aggressive action will be met with the full force of our combined fleets. What happened next would be remembered as the moment the galaxy truly understood that humanity had become something beyond their comprehension. The 12 human vessels around Station Omega began to glow with an eerie light. Space itself seemed to bend around them, and then they simply ceased to exist in normal space. But they hadn't disappeared. Instead, they had phase-shifted into a parallel dimension that occupied the same coordinates. The station's sensors showed empty space, but everyone could feel their presence, a pressure against reality itself. Then, one by one, targets appeared throughout the system. Derelict asteroids, abandoned satellites, cosmic debris. The human ships reappeared for microseconds at a time, just long enough to fire their weapons. Each target was struck with surgical precision by weapons that seemed to defy causality itself. Some targets were hit before the ships appeared to fire. Others were struck by weapons that existed in multiple places simultaneously. Within 30 seconds, every designated target in the system had been eliminated, and the human vessels had returned to their positions around the station as if they had never moved. Commander Blackwood smiled at the shocked expressions around her. What you just witnessed is what we call the Phantom Protocol. Our ships don't just move through space, they move through possibilities. We can be in multiple places at once, strike from dimensions you can't perceive, and retreat to spaces that don't technically exist. The Devourers are dangerous because they consume energy, but our ships can become ghostly, existing just enough to strike but not enough to be consumed. It's the perfect counter to their tactics. The Ketheri officer who had been monitoring the sensors spoke up, her voice filled with awe. The precision required for such maneuvers, the calculations alone would require processing power beyond anything we possess. How do your computers handle such complexity? Commander Blackwood's expression grew slightly mysterious. Who said we use computers? Humans have something unique, something we discovered when we started experimenting with quantum consciousness. We can intuitively navigate spaces that would drive artificial intelligence insane. Our pilots don't calculate their moves. They feel them. It's not science as you understand it, but a fusion of technology and human instinct that creates something entirely new. Chancellor Korvax's form solidified into a deep blue color, indicating serious contemplation. If what you say is true, if these Devourers are coming and humanity has the means to fight them, what do you want from us? Commander Blackwood's expression grew serious. Alliance. True partnership. The Ghost Fleet is powerful, but we're still only human. We tire, we make mistakes, and we're vastly outnumbered. The Devourers have consumed galaxies. We've only fought their scouts. When their main force arrives, we'll need every ship, every weapon, every brilliant mind in this galaxy working together. We're offering to share our technology, our tactics, everything we've learned. In return, we need your resources, your knowledge, and your trust. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates were eager to accept, terrified of facing the Devourers without humanity's protection. Others were suspicious, wondering if this was an elaborate deception to gain access to their technologies. The debate raged for hours, but it was interrupted by another alarm. This time the sensors detected something different. Not ships appearing, but space itself beginning to tear at the edge of the system. Something was forcing its way through from another dimension. Commander Blackwood's expression turned grim. They're here sooner than expected. That's a Devourer harvester, probably following the quantum trail from our demonstration. She touched her communicator. Admiral Rivera, initiate Protocol 7. Show them what Earth can really do. The response was immediate. Understood, Commander. All Ghost Fleet vessels, this is Admiral Rivera. We have a live Devourer contact. Weapons free. Show these entities why humanity is their worst nightmare. What followed was a battle unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever witnessed. The Devourer harvester emerged fully into normal space, a writhing mass of dark energy and twisted matter the size of a small moon. It immediately began pulling energy from everything around it, creating a vortex that threatened to consume nearby ships and stations. The assembled alien fleets opened fire with their most powerful weapons, but the energy beams were simply absorbed, making the creature stronger. Then the Ghost Fleet struck. They didn't attack directly. but instead created a web of phase-shifted space around the harvester, trapping it between dimensions. Human ships appeared and disappeared like phantoms, each appearance accompanied by weapons that struck at the creature's core from angles that didn't exist in three-dimensional space. The harvester thrashed and roared, its cries echoing across dimensions, but it couldn't touch the human vessels that existed just outside its reach. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. The harvester, cut off from its ability to feed and torn apart by weapons it couldn't understand or counter, collapsed into itself and dissipated into quantum foam. The Ghost Fleet reappeared in normal space, forming a protective barrier around Station Omega. Admiral Rivera's voice came through the communication system, calm despite what had just occurred. Devourer harvester neutralized. No casualties. Chancellor Korvax, I believe you now understand what we're offering. Humanity stands ready to defend this galaxy, but we cannot do it alone. The choice is yours. Commander Blackwood stood in the center of the silent council chamber, her small form somehow dominating the space. The Devourers will send more. Larger forces, smarter tactics, adaptations to our weapons. We need to work together to develop new strategies, new technologies, and new ways of fighting. Humanity offers its knowledge freely. Our Ghost Fleet is the first line of defense. All we ask is that you accept us, not as the primitive species you discovered, but as equals in this fight for survival. Chancellor Korvax's crystalline form began to pulse with a rhythm that indicated deep emotion. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally accept Earth's proposal for alliance. We face an enemy beyond our understanding, and humanity has proven itself beyond our expectations. Together, we will stand against the Devourers. The chamber erupted in agreement, fear replaced by hope. The galaxy had found unlikely protectors in the species they had dismissed as primitive. As the formalities of alliance began, Commander Blackwood allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, developing in secret, pushing the boundaries of possibility. They had become something new, something unprecedented. Not conquerors or overlords, but guardians who emerged from the shadows when the galaxy needed them most. The Ghost Fleet was just the beginning. Earth's true power lay not in its weapons or technology, but in humanity's relentless determination to protect, adapt, and survive against any odds. The Devourers would learn what every human child knew. Monsters might hide in the dark, but humans had learned to be.